Chapter 1. The Beta's Dream. The clang of steel rang out across the training grounds. Thea ducked, twisted, and slammed her wooden practice sword into her opponent's side with a crack that echoed through the air. The boy stumbled, wheezing, and dropped to his knees. "Yield," Thea ordered, breath steady despite the sweat running down her temples. He nodded quickly, and the sparring circle erupted in cheers. Some were impressed, some annoyed, but all had learned the same thing: never underestimate Thea Quinn. She grinned, tossing her braid back as she stepped out of the ring. Her arms ached, but the fire in her chest burned bright. This, training, fighting, proving herself, was what she lived for. Not destiny, not prophecies, not the whispered rumors about her strange golden eyes. She wanted one thing: to be Beta. "Show off," a deep voice teased from behind her. Thea turned, and immediately rolled her eyes. 3 identical faces looked back at her, each crowned with thick dark hair, sharp jaws, and eyes that glowed like molten silver. Alaric, Conri, and Kai, the triplets. Future alphas of the Crescent Moon Pack. "Don't you all have alpha things to do?" she shot back, slinging her sword over her shoulder. Kai smirked, stepping closer. "Watching you win is alpha business." "Besides," Conri added, leaning lazily on the fence, "it's entertaining to see you knock our warriors on their asses." Alaric, the most serious of the 3, tilted his head. "You're strong, Thea. Stronger than most. But strength alone won't make you Beta." Her jaw tightened. "Then I'll get stronger." The triplets exchanged a look, one of those silent, twin-bonded conversations she'd never understand. Then, in unison, they grinned. "You're wasting your time," Kai said, brushing his hand just barely against hers. "You're not going to be Beta, Thea." Her eyes narrowed. "And why not?" Alaric's gaze softened, but his words carried weight. "Because you're meant to be our Luna." Thea froze. Her heart kicked hard against her ribs, and for a moment the world went too still. Then she laughed, sharp, disbelieving, almost defiant. "You're Luna. Please. I'd rather wrestle a rabid bear." Conri chuckled. "Don't tempt us to arrange that." But behind their teasing, there was something in their eyes she couldn't ignore, something certain. Something dangerous. Thea shook her head and walked away before they could see the heat rising in her cheeks. She didn't believe in fate. She didn't believe in destiny. And she definitely didn't believe she was meant to be Luna to 3 infuriating, gorgeous, impossible triplets. No. She was going to be Beta, even if it killed her. Thea stormed toward the water barrels at the edge of the training field, dipping a ladle and gulping down the cool liquid until her pulse slowed. The sound of footsteps followed, 3 sets, of course. She didn't have to turn around to know. "You don't give up, do you?" Kai's voice was amused, closer than the others. Thea wiped her mouth with the back of her hand and spun, glaring. "Not until I'm Beta. You 3 can joke all you want, but I've worked harder than anyone for this. Harder than half your warriors combined." Conri crossed his arms, smirk tugging at his lips. "We're not joking, Thea. You think too small. Beta is safe, predictable. But Luna—" She cut him off sharply. "Luna is a title for someone who sits pretty beside her alpha while the men do the real work. That's not me. It will never be me." Alaric stepped forward this time, his silver eyes steady, grounding. "You're wrong. A Luna is the heart of the pack. Without her, even alphas fall. And you, Thea," his gaze lingered, voice lowering like a vow, "you have the heart of a Luna, whether you want it or not." Her stomach twisted traitorously at his words. She shoved the feeling down hard. "You're insufferable, all of you." She slammed the ladle back into the barrel and shouldered past them, heading for the armory. But the triplets only exchanged quiet smiles behind her back. They weren't wrong. They knew. They could feel it already, even if she denied it. That night, long after the training grounds emptied, Thea stood alone beneath the rising moon. Her muscles ached, her palms blistered, but she welcomed the pain. It proved she was fighting, pushing, climbing toward her goal. Her dream of being Beta wasn't just ambition. It was armor. A way to keep herself grounded, to keep the strange whispers in her blood at bay. Still, as the silver light bathed her skin, she swore she heard something, soft, ancient, feminine. Daughter of the moon. Embrace what you are. Thea clenched her fists, shaking her head. No, she whispered to the night. I make my own fate. But in the distance, unseen eyes watched from the shadows of the forest. Eyes that glowed violet. And a voice rasped through the wind, chilling and certain. I've found you. Chapter 2. Sparks in the Training Grounds. The next morning dawned crisp and cool, mist curling low over the crescent moon training field. Thea was already there before the sun had fully risen, pushing herself through drills. Sweat dripped down her spine as she slammed her practice staff against a training dummy again and again, each strike fueled by stubborn fire. She didn't notice she wasn't alone until a low whistle carried through the mist. Up before dawn again, huh? She spun, staff raised defensively, only to find Kai leaning casually against the fence, arms folded, a lazy grin plastered on his too handsome face. Behind him, Conri stretched his arms, yawning, while Alaric stood with perfect posture, eyes sharp even this early. Do you three ever sleep? She snapped. Not when someone insists on hogging the training grounds, Conri drawled. We thought we'd join you today, Alaric said simply. If you want to prove you're strong enough for beta, then test yourself against us. Thea's pulse jumped. Sparring against ordinary warriors was one thing. Sparring against the triplets, the future alphas, was another. Fine, she said, forcing steel into her voice. But don't go easy on me. Kai's grin widened. Sweetheart, that's the last thing you should worry about. They squared off in the circle. Thea gripped her staff, while the triplets spread out around her, 3 predators circling prey. Except Thea refused to be anyone's prey. Conri struck first, quick and brutal. She dodged, countering with a sweep of her staff that cracked against his thigh. He cursed, but his grin only widened. Then Kai came at her from the other side, movements fluid, playful. She blocked his blow, only for Alaric to slip in behind her with surgical precision. His strike nearly knocked the staff from her hands. Thea's blood roared with adrenaline. She pivoted, striking fast, faster, staff ablur as she met them blow for blow. 3 against 1, and still she refused to fall. Minutes stretched. Cheers rose from the few early warriors who had gathered to watch. Thea's arms burned, lungs heaving, but she pressed harder, pushing herself past exhaustion. At last, Kai lunged, too reckless. Thea twisted, slammed her staff into his chest, and sent him sprawling into the dirt. She whirled to block Alaric's strike, then used his momentum to flip him over her shoulder. Conri tried to catch her off guard, but she ducked under his swing and swept his legs. The circle erupted in shouts as all 3 future alphas hit the ground. Thea stood over them, chest heaving, a triumphant fire blazing in her eyes. Yield, she demanded, echoing her victory from the day before. For a moment, the triplets just stared at her. Then Conri burst out laughing. Kai groaned from the dirt, smirking despite the wind knocked out of him. Even Alaric allowed himself a rare, quiet smile. You're insane, Conri said, rubbing his knee. You're dangerous, Kai added, propping himself up on his elbows. Alaric rose slowly, meeting her gaze with something deeper than amusement, something that made her stomach flip. You're extraordinary. Heat rushed to her cheeks, but Thea masked it with a scowl. I told you. I'm beta material. Alaric stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. No, Thea. You're more than that. And one day, you'll have to accept it. Her breath caught, but before she could respond, a horn blasted from the watchtower. The sound was sharp, urgent, an alarm. The gathered warriors froze. Thea's staff slipped slightly in her grip as the weight of the signal sank in. That wasn't a training horn. It was a warning. Kai was on his feet instantly, all humor gone from his face. Trouble at the borders. Conri swore under his breath, snatching up a real blade this time. I thought we had peace with the neighboring packs. Not shadows, Alaric said, his voice grim. He turned to Thea, silver eyes hard. Stay close to us. Thea's pulse thundered, but she gritted her teeth. I don't need protection. I can fight. Alaric didn't argue. He simply nodded once. Then fight with us. Together, they raced toward the gates as the alarm bell tolled again, the air thick with dread. And for the first time, Thea wondered if her dream of being Beta would be enough to protect the pack, or if the whispers of destiny she had spent her life denying were about to catch up with her. Chapter 3. First Blood. Thea's boots pounded the dirt as she sprinted with the triplets toward the northern border. The alarm bell clanged over and over, each strike vibrating in her chest like a war drum. Warriors poured from the barracks, shifting mid-run into massive wolves, for bristling, teeth bared. But the moment Thea saw what awaited them at the tree line, her blood ran cold. The mist there didn't move naturally. It curled upward like smoke, thick and choking, and within it shapes flickered, shadows that weren't solid, but weren't air either. They slithered forward, humanoid only in outline, with claws that gleamed like obsidian and eyes like coals. The nearest warrior lunged, a massive gray wolf, but the shadow's claws sliced through him as though through water. He yelped, collapsing, blood soaking the earth. "No!" Thea whispered, heart hammering. "Shadows," Alaric growled beside her, his voice low, edged with fury. "Just like in the stories." Kai bared his teeth. "I thought they were just nightmares told to scare pups." "They're real," Conri spat, already shifting mid-stride. His massive black wolf form hit the ground running, charging into the fray. Alaric and Kai shifted a heartbeat later, silver and russet fur tearing through the mist as they leapt to defend their pack. Thea stood frozen for a second, staff clutched in white-knuckled hands. This wasn't sparring. This wasn't training. This was death, spilling across the border like an open wound. Then a shadow lunged for her. Instinct roared alive. She ducked, swung her staff in a wide arc, and smashed it into the creature's side. To her shock, the blow landed, scattering the smoke briefly before it reformed. It hissed, claws slashing, and Thea barely rolled aside. Dirt sprayed her face. She scrambled up, striking again, faster, harder, refusing to let fear freeze her. All around her, wolves clashed with shadows. Teeth tore, claws raked, but for every shadow destroyed, another emerged from the mist. Screams filled the night, wolves falling one after another. "Thea!" Kai's wolf form barreled into a shadow behind her, ripping through it, but not before its claws grazed Thea's arm. Fire seared through her skin, black veins spidering outward from the wound. She gasped, stumbling, the staff slipping from her grip. Pain. White-hot. Unbearable. It spread fast, faster than any wound should. Her vision blurred, her knees buckling. She heard Alaric's howl, felt Conri's fury shake the ground. And then, something inside her broke open. A golden light flared beneath her skin, searing through the black veins. Her scream turned into a roar that wasn't entirely human. The shadows nearest her reeled back, shrieking as the light exploded outward in a pulse that shook the trees. Warriors and wolves alike froze as the golden wave swept across the field. Where it touched the shadows, they disintegrated, smoke torn apart by sunlight, fading into nothing. When it was over, silence fell. The mist thinned. The remaining shadows retreated, hissing as they slithered back into the forest. Thea collapsed to her knees, chest heaving, sweat and blood dripping down her arm. The glow faded slowly, leaving her trembling, terrified, and alive. Around her, stunned eyes turned in her direction. Whispers rippled through the crowd. "Did you see that? She burned them, Goddess help us, she burned them alive. She's gifted." Kai shifted back, rushing to her side, his face pale but fierce. "Thea, don't move, you're hurt." "I'm fine," she rasped, though her whole body shook. I don't know what happened." Conri shifted back too, blood smeared across his bare chest, eyes wide with a mixture of awe and confusion. "You blasted them to ash. Shadows don't die, Thea. But you killed them." Alaric approached last, his silver eyes locked on her, unreadable and intense. He crouched down, taking her hand gently despite the tremor in his own. "Thea," he said softly, a question and a revelation at once. "You're not just a warrior. You're not just beta material. You're goddess-gifted." Her heart lurched violently at the word, but before she could respond, another horn sounded in the distance, this one different. A long, mournful note. The horn of mourning. Thea turned her head, vision swimming, and saw them carrying the bodies of the fallen from the battlefield. Wolves she had trained beside. Friends. Dead. Her stomach twisted. Her triumph was ashes in her mouth. Whatever power had erupted inside her, it hadn't been enough to save them all. As the moon slid behind the clouds and the air filled with grief, Thea's chest tightened with a truth she didn't want to accept. Her dream of being Beta felt suddenly so small. And somewhere in the shadows of the forest, violet eyes burned with hunger. Chapter 4. Festival of the Moon. The Crescent Moon Pack had survived the shadow attack, but the air was still heavy with grief. The dead had been buried, their names sung into the night sky, their memories bound to the pack forever. And now, only days later, came the Festival of the Moon, a tradition no loss could cancel. Lanterns glowed along the village paths, strings of silver and white banners fluttered in the breeze, and drums echoed deep in the earth like a heartbeat. Wolves and humans alike gathered beneath the rising full moon, dressed in silks and leather, their faces lit with firelight. The festival was meant to honor the moon goddess, to remind the pack of life even after death. Thea wasn't sure she could celebrate. She stood at the edge of the square in a simple silver dress, her braid pinned up, her golden-flecked eyes catching the lantern light. She felt every gaze on her, not because of her dress, but because of what she had done on the battlefield. The whispers hadn't stopped since. She's gifted. She's marked. She's dangerous. Thea clenched her jaw and kept her chin high. She wouldn't let them see her doubt. You look beautiful. The voice was smooth, deep, familiar. Thea turned to find Kai standing there, dressed in dark ceremonial leathers that clung to his broad frame. He grinned, boyish and infuriating, but softer than usual. You don't clean up too badly yourself, she muttered, trying not to smile. Conri appeared next, offering her a goblet of spiced wine. His wolfish smirk was tempered tonight, eyes burning with something steadier. Drink. For the living. And then Alaric, quiet as ever, stepping into her space as if the rest of the festival vanished around them. He bowed his head slightly. Dance with us tonight. Just once. Thea swallowed hard, her pulse quickening. She should say no. She should remind them, and herself, that she wasn't Luna material, that she wasn't theirs. But the music swelled, and the triplets' expectant gazes made her chest tighten. So she said, barely above a whisper, just once. Thea didn't know how she ended up in the center of the square, lantern light flickering across her skin as the drums beat faster. She was surrounded, not trapped, but held, by 3 pairs of hands, 3 bodies that moved with hers as if they'd been waiting for this moment their entire lives. Kai spun her, laughter spilling from his lips as her skirt flared. Conri caught her next, pulling her close enough that heat radiated between them. Then Alaric, steady and grounding, his hand firm at her waist as he guided her through the steps. It was dizzying, intoxicating. You belong here, Kai murmured in her ear. With us, Conri added, his fingers brushing hers. Alaric's silver eyes locked onto hers, unflinching. Always. Thea's breath caught, her heart pounding louder than the drums. She wanted to deny it, to laugh it off, to shove them away before the fire consuming her chest spread any further. But surrounded by their warmth, their certainty, she couldn't find the words. Not when the bond between them thrummed like a living thing. The song ended, the crowd erupting in cheers. Thea pulled back, flushed, trembling, desperate for air. Before she could flee, a shadow fell across the square. It was another alpha, a visiting one from a smaller allied pack. His eyes raked over Thea in a way that made her skin crawl. He stepped forward, bowing mockingly. So this is the famous goddess-gifted warrior. Beautiful. Strong. No wonder you caught their attention. Thea stiffened. Excuse me. I think, the alpha said smoothly, that the goddess made a mistake binding you to one pack. A woman like you deserves to unite all packs, perhaps by standing at my side instead. He reached for her hand. A growl split the air. Then another. Then a third. Thea blinked, heart lurching, as the triplets moved as one, Alaric's grip closing on the alpha's wrist, Conri stepping between them with teeth bared, Kai's silver eyes flashing with something dangerous. She doesn't belong to you, Alaric said, voice like iron. She doesn't belong to anyone, Thea snapped, yanking her hand back. Her voice shook with anger, not fear. Least of all you. The alpha sneered, muttering something about overprotective pups, but he slunk away under the weight of 3 furious glares. Thea's chest heaved. She should have been grateful. She should have thanked them. Instead, she turned on the triplets, fire in her eyes. "Don't ever do that again. I can defend myself." Kai raised his hands. "We know you can." Conri smirked, but softer now. "Doesn't mean we'll stand by while someone touches what's ours." Alaric said nothing, but his gaze lingered on her like a vow. Thea spun and walked away before they could see how her hands trembled, how her lips burned from words she couldn't bring herself to say. She wanted to be Beta. She wanted her freedom. But the pull toward them was getting harder to deny. And high above, the moon shone brighter than it had all year, as if watching, waiting, warning. Chapter 5. Whispers of Destiny. Thea dreamed again. She stood in a silver meadow, moonlight drenching the grass until it glowed. The world was silent, still, as if holding its breath. Then, out of the mist, a woman appeared. Her skin shimmered like starlight, her hair black as midnight, her eyes endless pools of silver. She wore a crown of light and moved with a grace that was not human. Thea's chest tightened. She knew who this was without being told. The Moon Goddess. "Thea," the goddess whispered, voice both tender and commanding. "Daughter of the moon. You run from your fate, but fate does not let go so easily." "I don't want to be Luna," Thea said, her voice breaking in the stillness. "I don't want destiny. I just want to fight. To serve my pack." The goddess stepped closer, lifting a hand to cup Thea's cheek. Her touch was cool, soothing, but carried the weight of the stars. "You are meant for more than Beta. You are meant to unite. To heal. To destroy the shadow that grows in the dark. Your mates will stand with you. But the choice to accept them, and yourself, must be yours." Thea's throat tightened. "Mates." The goddess's smile was both kind and sorrowful. "The three. Alaric, Conri, and Kai. They are bound to you as you are to them. Together, you are stronger than the shadows that hunt you." Thea shook her head violently. "No. That's impossible." But the goddess only leaned down, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "Deny it if you wish. The bond will not break. Embrace it, and the world will survive. Reject it, and the shadows will consume all." The meadow dissolved in light. Thea woke with a gasp, heart slamming, sweat slicking her skin. Her hands trembled as she pressed them over her face. Mates. Triplets. The very thing she had sworn she would never accept. The next day, she avoided them. She trained alone, patrolled alone, even ate at the far end of the table in the dining hall. But no matter how hard she tried, she could feel them, like a pull under her skin, a tether tugging her toward them. It was worse with Alaric. His steady silver eyes seemed to read her thoughts whenever she caught his gaze. Conri's presence made her restless, his wild grin igniting sparks she hated admitting she felt. And Kai made her laugh when she least wanted to, tearing down walls with a single crooked smile. She was unraveling, and she hated it. That night, she went to the forest to clear her head, the full moon silvering the leaves. She needed space, distance, control. But when she heard footsteps behind her, she knew before turning that it was one of them. It was Alaric. He stopped a few paces away, hands loose at his sides, his voice calm. "You've been avoiding us." Thea crossed her arms. "Maybe I like the quiet." Alaric's eyes softened, but his jaw clenched. "You had a dream." Her blood ran cold. "How do you?" "We felt it," he said simply. "The bond. It ties us together, Thea. Even if you hate it." She turned sharply, glaring. "I don't hate it. I just don't want it." Alaric stepped closer, his presence like a storm contained beneath skin. "Do you think we asked for this? For one woman to be tied to three? For our future Luna to resist us at every turn?" Thea's breath caught. He wasn't angry. His voice was raw, vulnerable. He closed the distance between them slowly, giving her every chance to step back. But she didn't. She couldn't. "Thea," he murmured, tilting her chin up with a single finger, "we don't want to control you. We don't want to cage you. We only want to fight beside you. Protect you. Love you." Her chest tightened, heat flooding her. She should have pushed him away. She should have said no. Instead, when his lips brushed hers, she broke. The kiss was slow, deep, steady, like everything Alaric was. The world tilted, the bond humming between them like a live current. Her knees threatened to give, her body pressed into his before she even realized she had moved. When they broke apart, breathless, Thea's eyes burned with unshed tears. "I can't," she whispered, her voice shaking. "If I give in, I'll lose myself." Alaric's forehead rested against hers, his hand steady at her jaw. "You won't lose yourself, Thea. You'll find who you were always meant to be." Her heart thundered, and in the shadows of the trees, unseen violet eyes watched, burning with hunger. Chapter 6. Marked by the Moon. The pack gathered beneath the full moon, drums echoing through the clearing, voices lifted in a haunting chant that reverberated through the trees. Tonight wasn't just a tradition, it was prophecy in motion. The triplets' first shift. Thea stood on the edge of the circle, arms crossed tight, heart pounding harder than she wanted to admit. Every wolf in the pack whispered about what was to come. Everyone expected greatness from the sons of the Alpha. But no one expected the way fate would tie them to her. The triplets knelt in the center of the clearing, bare-chested, sweat gleaming on their skin. The moonlight seemed to favor them, painting their bodies in silver. The elder raised his staff. "Tonight, Alaric, Conri, and Kai of the Blood Moon Pack, you will take your rightful forms and claim your place as alphas." The pack howled in unison. Thea swallowed hard, her throat dry. Then it began. Alaric's body shuddered, bones snapping, skin tearing as fur erupted silver and gleaming. His howl tore through the night, commanding, steady, the sound of a leader born. Conri's shift came next, wild and explosive, his wolf a massive beast of deep gray, eyes glowing with untamed fire. His growl shook the ground beneath their feet. And then Kai, his change smoother than the others, his wolf sleek black with silver streaks across his back. His howl rose last, weaving into his brothers like a perfect chord. The ground thrummed beneath Thea's boots. The entire pack dropped to one knee, acknowledging their alphas. But the moment the triplets' eyes turned to her, the air shifted. Alaric silver, Conri's wild amber, Kai's storm gray, 3 pairs of glowing eyes locked on Thea with unshakable certainty. And the bond roared to life. Thea staggered back, clutching her chest as her heart blazed with fire. The pull was undeniable now, a force that dragged her forward. The pack gasped as the triplets padded toward her, circling, noses pressing into her skin as if claiming what had always been theirs. "She's their mate," someone whispered. "She's the Luna," another breathed. Thea's knees buckled, fury and fear warring in her veins. "No," she gasped, shaking her head violently. "No. This isn't what I wanted." But the bond burned hotter, making her pulse sing in rhythm with theirs. Alaric's wolf pressed against her hand, Conri nipped playfully at her hip, Kai nudged her shoulder with his muzzle, all instinctive, all claiming. Tears blurred her vision. This was the moment she'd been dreading, the moment she couldn't deny. Fate had chosen, no matter how hard she had fought against it. The elder's voice boomed. "The goddess has spoken. Thea of Blood Moon is Luna to the Alphas." The pack roared in approval, howls shaking the forest. But in the shadows beyond the firelight, the violet-eyed figure watched with growing hunger. "So," he whispered, lips curling in a smile, "the goddess-gifted one has revealed herself." The shadows writhed around him like serpents. "Soon, she will be mine." Chapter 7. Shadows at the Gate. Thea couldn't sleep. Hours after the shifting ceremony, her skin still buzzed with the bond's fire. No matter how she tried to ignore it, the triplets' presence clung to her like smoke in her lungs, suffocating and intoxicating all at once. She had slipped away to the training grounds, pounding her fists into the wooden post until her knuckles split. The sting was grounding. Pain she could control. Thea. She didn't have to turn to know it was Conri. His scent, wild cedar and smoke, brushed her senses, awakening something primal inside her. "You shouldn't sneak up on people," she muttered, wiping sweat from her brow. Conri smirked, leaning lazily against the fence, arms crossed. "You weren't exactly quiet. Thought you'd knock the post down." Thea rolled her eyes, but her heart raced. He stepped closer, his grin dimming into something softer. "You felt it," he said simply. Thea froze. The bond. You can pretend all you want, but you felt us. You feel us. Her chest squeezed. That doesn't mean I want it. Conri's hand lifted, brushing a lock of damp hair from her face. His eyes burned into hers, fierce and vulnerable at once. Doesn't matter what you want, Thea. Some things are written in the stars. Before she could respond, the ground trembled. Both of them froze, ears pricked. A distant rumble grew louder, the night air thickening with the scent of rot and decay. Then the screams began. Thea and Conri sprinted toward the village, wolves already howling in alarm. Shadows writhed at the tree-line, spilling into the clearing, twisted creatures of smoke and fong, their violet eyes glowing with malice. Thea skidded to a halt, heart hammering. She had seen wolves from rival packs, rogues driven mad by the moon, but these were something else entirely. Wrong. Corrupted. Conri shifted mid-run, his massive gray wolf barreling into the first of the creatures with a snarl. Alaric and Kai weren't far behind, their wolves cutting through the enemy like blades of moonlight. Thea grabbed a fallen spear, adrenaline surging. She spun, drove it into a shadow beast's chest. It shrieked, dissolving into smoke, but more kept coming. Thea! Kai's voice rang through the chaos. Behind you! She turned too late. A massive shadow lunged, claws like black steel aimed at her throat. And then, it happened. Her body burned, light erupting from her skin like fire. The air rippled with power, silver threads weaving into the night. The creature slammed into an invisible barrier, shrieking as it disintegrated into ash. The battlefield stilled for a heartbeat. Every wolf's gaze turned to her. Thea stood frozen, hands trembling, eyes glowing with silver light. "What was that?" she whispered, voice raw. Alaric shifted back into human form, his chest heaving, silver eyes wide. The goddess was right. Conri padded to her side, his wolf pressing against her leg protectively. Kai's jaw clenched as he stepped closer, his hand finding hers. "You're goddess-gifted," Kai said. "And now the whole world knows it." As if to prove him right, a deep laugh rolled through the shadows. A tall figure emerged from the tree-line, violet eyes gleaming. Cloaked in darkness, his smile was sharp, hungry. "At last," he drawled, voice carrying like silk over steel. "The goddess-gifted Luna reveals herself." Thea's blood ran cold. The triplets growled low, wolves bristling, circling her protectively. The stranger's smile widened. "Don't worry, my little moonlight. Soon, you'll belong to me." And with a swirl of shadows, he vanished. Chapter 8. Blood Moon Rising. The packhouse had never felt so tense. Hours after the attack, the air buzzed with fear and awe. Wolves whispered about the cloaked stranger, about the shadows that fought like demons, and most of all, about Thea, the girl who had burned with silver light. Thea sat at the long oak table in the war room, her hands trembling in her lap. She could still feel the heat under her skin, the unnatural glow that had burst out of her like wildfire. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't forget the look on everyone's faces. Fear. Awe. Expectation. All she had ever wanted was to be Beta. Now the goddess had stripped that choice away. "We can't wait for him to strike again," Alaric said, pacing the length of the room. His wolf still rode just beneath his skin, silver eyes sharp and commanding. "He's testing us. Next time, he won't just send shadows." "We fortify the borders," Conri growled from where he leaned against the wall, arms crossed, fury radiating from his every move. "Double patrols. If anything moves out there, we'll tear it apart." "And what happens when he doesn't send beasts?" Kai's voice cut low, steady, but dangerous. He stood near Thea, his hand resting protectively on her shoulder. "What happens when he comes for her himself?" Thea stiffened. "I'm sitting right here, you know." 3 sets of eyes turned to her at once. The weight of their concern pressed heavy, suffocating. "I'm not some damsel waiting to be snatched," she snapped, pushing to her feet. "Yes, something happened out there, but I don't even understand it. You want me to embrace this power? Fine. Then train me. Don't lock me away." Silence stretched. Then, slowly, Alaric nodded. "She's right," he admitted. His gaze softened when it fell on her, though the alpha steel remained. If she's goddess-gifted, she's our greatest weapon. And weapons need sharpening. Conri's grin was sharp and feral. Finally, I get to knock you on your ass in training. Thea arched a brow. Try it, and I'll light you up. Laughter broke the tension, short but real. For a moment, they were just them again, teasing, breathing, alive. But under it all, danger coiled, waiting. Later, when the war room emptied and the pack settled into uneasy sleep, Thea found herself on the balcony, staring at the moon. Running off alone again? Kai's voice was soft behind her. She didn't turn. I can't sleep. He stepped closer, his warmth brushing her back. Because of him. Because of everything. She exhaled shakily. I never wanted this. I just wanted to fight beside you three, not be this chosen one. Not be Luna. Kai's hand slid into hers, grounding, steady. Then stop thinking of it as something forced on you. Think of it as this: the goddess chose you because no one else could do it. And we, he paused, voice roughening, we'll never let you carry it alone. Thea's throat tightened. She turned, meeting his storm-gray eyes, and the bond tugged, warm and unyielding. For once, she didn't fight it. Her lips brushed his before she could stop herself. The kiss was soft at first, hesitant, then urgent, heat sparking as his hand cupped her jaw, pulling her closer. When they broke apart, breathless, Kai's forehead rested against hers. You feel it too, he whispered. Thea's heart thudded violently. That's what I'm afraid of. From the shadows below the balcony, Conri's voice called up with a smirk. You two done making out, or should I give you more time? Thea groaned, cheeks blazing, while Kai muttered a curse. But their laughter was short-lived. A horn blared from the northern border, sharp and urgent. Thea's blood ran cold. The shadows were back. And this time they weren't alone. Chapter 9. The Siege. The warning horn split the night air. By the time Thea, Kai, Conri, and Alaric reached the border, the world was already chaos. Wolves clashed with shadows, claws meeting teeth, steel flashing beneath the blood moon's eerie light. The air reeked of iron and rot, screams echoing through the forest. And in the middle of it all, him. The cloaked figure. The stranger who had spoken her doom. He stood calmly among the carnage, violet eyes glowing, untouched by the bloodshed around him. The goddess's little toy, his voice purred across the battlefield, chilling her to her bones. Come closer, child. Let me taste your light. Every wolf froze at his words. His power rippled like a poison tide. Thea's knees wavered, but Alaric's hand steadied her shoulder. Don't listen, he growled. He feeds on fear. Her heart hammered as the triplets shifted, their massive wolves forming a wall around her, gray, silver, and jet black, snarling at the enemy. But the shadows kept coming. For every one the pack tore down, two more rose from the ground, hissing, clawing. Wolves fell. Blood darkened the earth. Thea grabbed a fallen sword, her body shaking. She wanted to run, but the goddess's fire churned beneath her skin, demanding release. A scream tore through the night, one of their younger wolves, cornered by three shadows. Thea didn't think. She moved. The blade cut through smoke, useless, but her fury lit like wildfire. Silver light exploded from her palms, lancing through the creatures. They shrieked, dissolving to ash. Every head turned to her. The battlefield stilled. For a single breath, silence. Then the stranger laughed. Yes. Burn brighter, little moonlight. Thea's vision blurred as more power surged, uncontrollable. Her skin glowed, hair lifting in the wind, her very breath humming with celestial fire. She screamed, light erupting outward in a shockwave. Shadows disintegrated in droves. Wolves stumbled back, shielding their eyes. Even the triplets froze, stunned by the force pouring from her. When the light dimmed, dozens of shadow creatures lay scattered in ash. The forest smoldered. And Thea. She collapsed to her knees, gasping, trembling violently. Her veins burned, her body screaming from the strain. The triplets were on her in seconds, human again, desperate. Thea! Kai caught her shoulders, fear stark in his eyes. Breathe, damn it, breathe. You burned half the forest, Conri muttered, though his voice cracked with awe. That was God's, Thea. Alaric's expression was unreadable, but his hand gripped hers, tight, anchoring. You saved us. But the victory was hollow, because the cloaked man still stood, untouched, unshaken, smiling. Well, well, he drawled, clapping once, the sound echoing like thunder. The goddess's gift truly is magnificent, but raw, unstable, dangerous. If you survive long enough to master it, perhaps you'll be worthy of me. His form dissolved into mist, vanishing with the wind. The battlefield was left in ruin. Wolves dead, others gravely wounded. And in the middle of it, Thea, shaking, glowing faintly still. The bond with the triplets pulling tauter, deeper, as though the goddess herself was binding them together. Thea met their eyes, voice breaking. What if he's right? What if I can't control this? What if I destroy you too? Alaric's gaze hardened. Then we'll make damn sure you learn. Because you're not alone in this, Thea. Not ever. The three of them surrounded her, holding her steady as the moon bled crimson overhead. And far beyond the tree-line, unseen, an army gathered. This was only the beginning. Chapter 10. The Goddess's Mark. The pack buried their dead at dawn. Ash drifted on the wind, the earth still scarred from the night's battle. Wolves stood in silence, heads bowed, grief weighing heavy. But through the sorrow ran something else, fear. Fear of Thea. Whispers followed her wherever she walked, goddess-gifted, too powerful, dangerous. Thea kept her chin up, though inside she was crumbling. She wanted to run into the woods and never come back. But when her gaze met the triplets, the ground beneath her steadied. You did what had to be done, Alaric told her that night, voice fierce, unwavering. Without you, none of us would be standing here. Yet they look at me like I'm a monster, she whispered. Conri snorted. Then let them. Monsters don't kneel. Monsters survive. Kai reached for her hand, softer. You're not a monster, Thea. You're ours. Her chest ached at the certainty in his tone. But before she could respond, the earth trembled. The blood moon swelled overhead, turning the sky crimson. Energy surged in the air, thick, alive, pressing against her skin. And then she heard it. A voice. Ancient. Feminine. It rang in her skull, in her very bones. Daughter of the moon. Rise. Thea collapsed, clutching her head. Light seared her vision. She was no longer in the packhouse, but standing on a vast silver plain, stars swirling overhead. The goddess. Her form shimmered with radiance, faceless yet beautiful, her voice both thunder and lullaby. You doubt yourself, the goddess intoned. But I chose you. Not for what you want. For what you are. Protector. Luna. The last hope of your kind. I don't want this. Thea shouted into the void, tears spilling. I just wanted to be Beta. To stand by them, not above them. The goddess's laughter echoed, warm and terrible. To lead is not to stand above. It is to stand with. And you, child, were never meant to walk alone. Thea's chest burned. A mark seared itself into her skin, glowing across her collarbone, a crescent moon wrapped in 3 intertwined wolves. She gasped, collapsing to her knees. When her vision cleared, she was back in the packhouse, the triplets surrounding her, their faces pale with shock. The glowing mark still burned on her skin. Thea, Alaric breathed. The goddess bound us. To you. The bond pulsed between them, undeniable, irrevocable. They weren't just potential mates anymore. They were hers. And she was theirs. But before the weight of that truth could settle, the sky split with thunder. A voice rolled across the land, deep and cruel, carried on the wind. You cannot hide her from me. The goddess's gift belongs to me. The cloaked man's laughter shook the earth, echoing over forests and mountains. Thea staggered, clutching the triplets' hands, her mark blazing brighter in defiance. She was chosen. She was bound. And war was coming. Thea lifted her head to the blood-red moon, her fear burning into resolve. If destiny wanted a fight, she would give it one.